Hello and welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me. Let's talk weeding. Everyone moans about it, but let's have a look at the basic principles. The first basic principle is regular. Weed regularly and that will keep them down. Doesn't matter what the regularity is, every couple of weeks, once a week is great. A few hours every day is even better. 10 minutes every day is great. That keeps them down, because if you don't do that, and this is what can happen to your asparagus bed. Now admittedly here we are at the edge of woodland and we have a problem with horsetail. As you can see, it's everywhere. So what I'm doing is I'm doing an emergency damage limitation job at the moment. As you see, we've got thistles down in the far corner there. This bed is empty, so that's quite good. So ideally you want to get rid of the root. Now in a bed like this asparagus bed, that's quite difficult. I thoroughly did it last autumn, and I'm not in charge of coming here. That's not part of my job, but and my advice isn't heeded, because I'm always and when people go away it can't be done. So one principle is to dig out the plant by the root, then every week or every frequent time you come along and you hoe, or you just hand weed where you can. Now what I've done here is that in between the rows was covered in this stuff. I don't even know what it is. I don't know, I just know it's a weed because we don't want it. The other principle of weeding is, and this applies to any plant you want to get rid of, if you cut it off to the ground, you basically starve it of food. Now one of the main principles is this, and this applies to any plant that you don't want, and that is you cut it right back to the ground. And without doing anything more than doing that, if you do that regularly, you cut all its leaves off, basically what you're doing is you're starving it. You're starving it of the ability to take in light and to take in water. And eventually it will die, because you can't survive on no food and no water. So that is one of the principles, and it's called defoliation. Basically defoliate, take the leaves off, and that's crucial to get rid of plant. This can be done to, to elders or any tree and plant you don't want. As soon as it starts growing, cut it, and eventually it will die because it won't have enough food. So that leads me nicely on to the principles of hoeing. Now I don't always abide by the principles of hoeing, because in a working garden you have to do what you can do. You don't have any choice in that. So it's been raining for a while and I've just been hoeing, but it does mean some of the plants will come back. But as you saw, well, you can see how thick it is in here if you look. Now that was all over here, so all I've done is I've created a little space in the middle. Now I'm going to have to go through and hand weed that, but it's probably easier if I wait for it to get a bit bigger, because that is too fiddly, and also I can't get in with these. That's going to be quite dodgy, so I'm just doing what I can do basically which is all that you can do. Now with this bed, what I'm doing is, like I said, I'm doing a damage limitation. So I've already been through and hoed what I can of this, because I can see where the plants are. And then I shall go through next week or the week after and do some finishing up and just keep hoeing. So what will happen now is I've hoed this. It was as thick as everywhere else that's thick. And I did that 2 days ago. So what I'm going to do is next time you come along and I'll hoe that. Next time I'll come along and I'll hoe all this that I've already done. So that, and if you do that, it means there's less that you have to go through and hoe. You don't spend so much time doing that. So another principle of hoeing, another principle of weeding is pick an area where you start, so you have to prioritize, and do that whole area. Then next time you come back, you can just quickly go over it hoeing or quickly hand weed, because it will never be as bad as last time. So it's a bit of those, it's a bit of a parabolic curve, really. So, and then you move on to the next piece and you thoroughly do that. And then next time you come back and you can hoe the bit you did before, the bit you've just done, and then you can go and clear another bit. So what I'm doing here, and this is milk thistle, as you can see, it's starting to, the flower buds are starting to appear. So what I'm doing with this, I'm following my own principles and pulling it up by the root, which, if you suffer hangovers, then this is the plant for you. Milk thistle, it's good for your liver. Now the principles of pulling anything up are that you grab it as close to the base as possible and gently but firmly pull directly upwards. There we go, that has broken off because I really needed 2 hands. It won't matter though. Let's do it with this one. And so is that. Oh, because the grass is in there. Okay. So you grab it, pull firmly. There we go. There. And pull firmly straight upwards. And that principle works for things like cow parsley, and as well as milk thistle and other things. Lesser hogweed it doesn't work that well for. You have to defoliate that. And while we're here, this plant, this is figwort. Now another way to keep weeds down is to cover areas you're not using with plastic. Well, as you can see here, the plastic that gets used isn't wide enough. So you have stuff growing out at the edge, which perfectly illustrates that you actually need to cover the whole bed to keep the weeds down, because although you may think, oh well, it's only a strip along the edge, that may be so, but it's how the weeds have found a way where the roots go, because if you can see here, they're coming out through the sleepers. So the possibility is that you're not going to get rid of these weeds forever, or for good, or even completely, first go. And that's how it works. But the crucial thing is to weed regularly. And if you weed regularly, if you prune regularly, if you do everything regularly, you don't get any problems in your garden, apart from things that you can't do anything about, like disease or the wind blowing a tree over or something. Okay, well, thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching. I hope that helps. And subscribe for more. See you next time. Ta-da.